Hello and welcome to this episode of Talk in Adoption. I am Grace Gomez and I am the Adopter Diversity Recruitment Officer for PACT Charity, and I work in the Reading office, and I'm joined today by Dean Hunter, who is our lead HR trustee at PACT Charity. Welcome, Dean.
Hi, Grace. Good morning. It's nice to see you. And
Thank you
it's
very
nice to
much.
talk about everything adoption leave because it's another area of the law that's become quite complex. So
Yeah.
I think for the purposes of today, we'll pull out the key points and facts, and then we'll put together and a link to a frequently asked questions document that will just give people a bit more detail that they might need.
Okay then, so firstly, can you just explain what is adoption leave?
Yes, so adoption leave was really created to provide support to individuals who adopt. And we say individuals because we have, sole adopters. If it is a couple, then we need to choose which partner, or they need to choose which partner would take adoption leave, because it really is for one person. And they tend to be referred to as the primary or main adopter.
And who is entitled to adoption leave?
So in the UK, you have to be an employee. So we have employees and we have workers. And by workers, we mean self-employed people,
Okay.
limited companies. So to be an employee, you're typically on the company payroll. And you need to adopt through a UK or overseas adoption agency. So scenarios where it's within a family wouldn't be applicable or entitled. And you need to have received notice that you have been matched with a child for placement.
Okay.
Okay. A placement date also should have been provided.
Mm.
And even though a partner of a couple wouldn't be entitled to adoption leave or pay, it's not saying that they wouldn't be entitled to things like paternity leave. So that's something else we can cover in the frequently asked questions.
So how long do people have to work for their employer before they qualify for adoption leave?
So employees have the right to take adoption leave from the first day of their employment, but it's different for pay. So to receive adoption pay, you have to have 26 weeks continuous service with the same employer by the end of the week that they are matched with a child. They also have to have average earnings not less than the lower earnings limited, and that's currently £123 a week before tax.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. And so how long do parents have to take off work once their child or children are placed?
There is an expectation that individuals would take up to a year off. So they are therefore entitled by the government to take up to 52 weeks adoption leave, regardless of their length of service or whether they're full-time or part-time. So 26, what we call weeks at ordinary adoption leave, and then 26 weeks additional adoption leave. And only one period of adoption leave is the entitlement, regardless of the number of children that are being placed.
Thank you. So when would you suggest that people begin to talk to their employers about adoption leave?
Really, as soon as possible, because there's lots of practicalities that you want to chat through. So you don't want to do it last minute. And there are notice of intention to take adoption leave forms, which you can get from your HR departments or online. But you really should do it within 7 days of being notified that you've been matched. If all else fails, then the employee is expected to do it as soon as possible.
So when can people start their adoption leave?
So adoption leave can start on a predetermined date, and for many individuals and couples, that might be the day the child is placed, or up to 14 days before. It's important to note that if it's an overseas adoption, then it can be up to 28 days they can take leave before the child is placed with them.
Right. Okay, thank you. And can people take time off to attend adoption placement meetings?
Yeah, there is a provision for individuals that they get paid time off for up to 5 adoption appointments. And then for the secondary, for the partner of the main adopter, they would get up to 2 days unpaid.
And so how does adoption leave work for people adopting through the foster to adopt scheme?
That's a good question. So in 2015, the law changed and the regulations changed on this. So now if you are looking to for permanent placement through fostering for adoption, it's exactly the same as it is for adoption. So there's no differences between the two.
Okay, that's good to know. And what about self-employed people?
So we get a bit confused about self-employed and employee and workers. So if we think of employees as people on the company payroll, whether they're part-time, full-time, they're entitled. People that are self-employed, so limited company, they have their own company, they send an invoice into their client, they wouldn't be entitled to adoption leave or pay. And that would be for them to arrange their own leave, with their client, for example.
Okay, thank you. And how much is the statutory adoption pay?
So it's good to keep a check on the government.uk website because this changes regularly, as do the regulations around adoption in terms of leave and pay. But it's payable for up to 39 weeks, and it tends to be, it is 90% of your average earnings for 6 weeks. And then 33 weeks at the statutory rate, which is currently £172 a week. Or if your earnings are less than £172.48, which is the limit at the moment, it would be 90% of your average weekly earnings. There's 13 weeks left in that pay period, and they would be unpaid. It's important to mention as well that some companies may enhance. So we're giving the statutory position here. That some companies might be a bit more generous. It's also important to know that if you're not entitled for statutory adoption pay, they may be eligible to seek support from the Department of Work and Pensions. And you can get more information on that from your local Job Centre Plus.
And what are people's rights during adoption leave?
That's a good question. And as it should be, all terms and conditions remain unchanged through the period of adoption, except those relating to pay, because obviously we've just talked about the tiering pay through that period. Annual leave will accrue. So even though you're on adoption leave, you'll still accrue your holidays, which you may then plan to take at the end of the adoption period. And companies should also continue to make pension contributions. What's really important is that employees have a protection from detriment or dismissal. So what that basically means is that they shouldn't suffer a loss of their role, particularly during the ordinary adoption leave period, or to any of their terms and conditions because they're an adopter.
Okay, thank you. And can an employer keep in touch with the employee during their adoption leave?
Yeah, we have things called KIT days, so keeping in touch days. So up to 10 days where the employee might just want to go in, agreeing, with the employer, the day, the times, to just really keep that contact. It might be for training or catching up with the team, for example.
That's good. Okay, thank you. And so do people have to give notice of their intention to return to work?
So not if they return on their expected return date, and that's going to be on the form right at the start when they give a date for taking their leave. So no, not in that situation. If they want to come back early, the employer needs 8 weeks notice in writing. If they want to come back later than that, they're looking really to apply for unpaid parental leave from their employer.
Okay, all right, thank you. And can the employee decide not to return after their leave?
Yeah, and I guess that can happen, and employees are fearful of that. But you don't have to go back following your adoption leave if you change your plans. However, the amount of notice in your contract needs to match what you've got left on your adoption leave. And if it doesn't, the employer could ask you to go back for that notice period.
Sure. That's really good. Thanks, Dean. Is there anything else that people should consider?
I think what's important is to realise that, today we're talking about adoption pay and adoption leave, but there's various forms of leave. So some couples may opt for shared parental leave. And again, we'll cover some of that in the FAQs. But it's, agencies like PACT will inform and educate from day one. So if they attend an information session, if they're interested in adoption, a lot of these questions will come out and will be answered. But hopefully the FAQ document that we'll provide via the link will also give people, the answers to the questions that they'll have.
That's wonderful. That's really good and really you've covered that really well. Thank you so much. So thanks for joining us for this episode. And as Dean said, we'll put a link below this video to the frequently asked questions. And there's lots more information on our website, pactcharity.org. Thank you.